Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. So we're still talking about commodities, and we're talking about one commodity that is very well consumed by most Nigerians, and I'm talking about fish. Now, according to recent data from the National Bureau of Statistics, between 2011 and 2015, Nigeria produced 5.09 million metric tons of fish. That sounds like quite a lot, but it seems like it's still not enough to achieve local self-sufficiency. So 2014 recorded the highest metric ton of fish produced with 1.12 million. The second highest metric ton of fish produced in 2013, and the least was recorded in 2011. Now, recently, just last week, the Association of Indigenous Seafood Stakeholders of Nigeria wrote an open letter to the president complaining about how this segment of the market, this particular industry, was being stifled, and it was stifling domestic production because we still had the importation of fish on a high. Let's talk to the Executive Secretary of the Board of Trustees, Association of Indigenous Seafood Stakeholders of Nigeria, Mr. Ogboro Turner, Esquire, to get his thoughts and perspective. If the National Bureau of Statistics has brought out these figures at least between 2011 and 2015, but we're having this issue in 2017, let's get to understand how long this problem has been for them. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you very much.
So, as I mentioned, your association released in a very recent advertorial, raised alarm over this fish issue. The smuggling of fish is what you said.
Yes.
And according to the Bureau of Statistics report, we've seen that at least in the 4-year period between 2011 and 2015, Nigeria was able to attain over 5 million metric tons of fish.
In 2014, we started a program of curtailing importation of frozen fish with regulation, so that we can regulate the quantity with the aim of backward integration. So you cannot import frozen fish unless you are producing fish locally. You have to go and have a pond, if it's an artisanal fishery, one form or the other, or trawling. But for you to just start only importing without thinking of how to build our local capacity, we came against it. And so we decided that 25% reduction annually, and that is what accounted for the increase in the production of local fish capacity. Now, some unscrupulous agents, because of this position, have now seen that they cannot just import like before because there's a quota regime. They now decided to now start smuggling it through the Benin Republic land borders. So they will import the frozen fish to Benin Republic with the sole aim of bringing it to Nigeria, because if you are coming through the land border, it's assumed that you are coming under the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. And under the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, the whole of the ECOWAS sub-region is treated as one economic union. So you don't pay duties. And so instead of frozen fish produced in Benin Republic or any ECOWAS state, now you are having frozen fish produced in China, in Europe, everywhere, brought into Benin Republic with a sole aim of bringing it into Nigeria using the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. So
give us a sense of how much has actually been smuggled in, as in how
daily,
much?
as at today, daily, more than 400 tons of fish come into Nigeria from Cotonou. There's one big facility in Cotonou, with over 100,000 metric tons capacity of cold rooms. How many people are in Benin? That facility right now is the facility where they are using as a transit to be bringing all this, exploiting this loophole in the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. That facility, all the fish importers, as I'm talking to you now, if nothing is done urgently, virtually every fish that will be imported into Nigeria will be coming from Cotonou.
But have the relevant authorities been alerted?
We have alerted the relevant authorities.
And what was their response?
Everybody is responding, we are going to do something. we are taking action, but we are not seeing the action because the thing is going on rampage. The Nigerian Customs Service, we have written to the Controller General of Nigerian Customs Service. We have alerted our Minister of Agriculture that they should do something very urgent because you are just destroying the local production.
Why do you think that people would rather buy this smuggled imported fish?
The smuggled imported fish does not pay duty.
Okay.
Because normally, since it's supposed to transit to Nigeria, you don't pay duty in Benin Republic. So it ought to come by escort officially to Nigerian border, since it's not produced in Benin Republic. And at Nigerian border, they're supposed to pay proper duty. But what they do now, they carry it as a transit from the port, take it to this facility in Benin Republic, one place they call what's this, General, the guy import, export, agro products. That's all they are doing there.
Okay, so
from that point, when they are bringing it out, it's as if it was produced in Benin Republic.
Now, Mr. Turner, can you respond to this? Do you think that we have enough to feed, do we produce enough to feed Nigerians locally to the extent that we can even sell if we want? That's respond to that, and then I would ask that if we have the kind of quality that Nigerians want, which is the reason why they seem to be patronizing this
you see,
fish.
Nigeria presently does not have the capacity to produce enough to feed the country. But we took that policy to develop the local capacity upward by reducing imports. The reduction of imports by 25% annually will create bigger capacity for those who are into trawling, those who are into the artisanal fishing, those people who are doing farm fishing. They will be able to have better market. Presently, it's only 2 species of fish that is well farmed in Nigeria, and that is catfish and tilapia. Catfish and tilapia are the major species right now. They are still doing research with other Nigerian species in our research institute, which is not yet in commercial quantity. But the fish like mackerel, which is horse mackerel, those are pelagic fish. They cannot be produced here. They are not for our waters. Those are things for the Pacific and other waters. That's the way God shared it. So in cocktailing, we have to combine both. But the portion that is now given for lawful import, controlled, because we have to regulate it, is what they are now thwarting by now subverting our policy of regulation and our policy to build our capacity, the backward integration, by bringing this small goldfish using the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme as a ploy. So actually what they are doing when they say they exported to Nigeria, it's not export, it's smuggled, because the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme is supposed to be for products produced in the countries who are member states of ECOWAS, not for goods imported from outside ECOWAS territory. Any goods, services that are procured from outside the ECOWAS state into any ECOWAS state, leaving an ECOWAS state to another ECOWAS state, must comply with the extant import laws of that country. They must pay the proper duty, have the proper Form Ms, have their power, like in Nigeria here, pay the duty. And if you do that, you cannot import a carton of fish from Cotonou to Nigeria because it's more expensive. Formerly, nobody imports fish from Cotonou to Nigeria. It used to be from Nigeria they take fish to Cotonou.
So does it seem now like the Customs Service have reduced their oversight watch on this? Because I remember that, and was always widely reported in the news, destruction of frozen fish, frozen chicken, and turkey. So is it that has reduced and somehow they've let these people to slip through?
I think the custom is doing this very best. But I think the recession is also affecting the operations, because the borders don't seem to have been properly managed. It's just becoming more porous. And you see, with this ECOWAS scheme, you know the way they package the things in, they don't bring them in containers. They will load into trucks. So it's sometimes also very difficult for the custom people to efficiently check. And sometimes the custom is even under pressure because they want to meet some commitments of other things, they don't have enough people manning this thing. All they just take, you see, we are too lackadaisical in our attitude. They are complacent. They just take it for granted that this is ECOWAS. Once it's land border, it's ECOWAS. No need. No need. It's not so. They ought to be vigilant, because these things are not passing through the sea. They are not passing through the sky. They are passing the land border.
But you see, you can only be very vigilant. They, like you rightly mentioned, they're doing their best. But how much support is your association giving in terms of intelligence report to the customs, for instance?
We have asked them to constitute a monitoring board where our stakeholders will be part of, as part of the solutions. Because you notice that when only the government people are doing it, this type of monitoring, this thing becomes a cash cow for some very, very weak-hearted and minded people. They will use it to be extorting money for themselves instead of for the government. You know, and this is why we said there should be a monitoring committee, even sanctions. Because if we take domestic sanction, for instance, if we come and find this smuggled fish in your cold room, we destroy all the fish in your cold room, who will go next time? We prosecute you. But where there's no sanctions, that is where the people, their heart is set in them to continue to do what is wrong. But we need sanctions, and it is very, very important that we have to take. It's not just enough to say we close the borders so that it doesn't come in. No, but we have to take domestic sanctions, and people must be made to comply. If you are importing, no problem. If you want to transit through Cotonou, no problem. But make sure you have your allocation paper. Make sure you have your valid form. Make sure you have your PAR. Pay your duty, so that Nigeria cannot be losing revenue. Because in the way they package these things, the health hazard is very horrifying. You get it? Because they are not subject to NAFDAC inspections and release. They are not subject to the fisheries lab and release. So you are just carrying something, we don't even know the state of what we are eating, and this is something people will eat. And sometimes even you find out that even expired fish, they will recarton it. You get it? And relabel it. It's only through this NAFDAC inspections that we find out if the fish is contaminated or not. But these smuggled ones don't pass through those processes.
And you can't differentiate,
with
which one is
and they will just drop the price. In fact, they'll drop the price. So if they drop the price will become an incentive for you to buy the bad
So
fish.
are you also saying that when you go to the market and you want to buy fish and you're finding it at a very cheap rate, it's also...
You must look at it, whether it has changed color, whether it's becoming rancid. When you must check the fish you are buying. You must be very, very careful, because food poisoning is very dangerous. It's a fast killer.
Mr. Turner, you talked about having only two types of fish being produced here in Nigeria: catfish
and tilapia.
Yeah,
it's local.
And there's some people that have much more bigger taste than catfish and tilapia.
Of course.
So, talk to us as we try to wrap up this conversation. What incentives is the government giving by way of support so that domestic fish producers can begin to look at the bigger picture of having more of the kind of variety, kind of fish that that Nigerians prefer outside of tilapia and catfish? Yes,
that's why I mentioned about the research institutes that are doing research already for a lot of species we have from our freshwaters. Apart from this, we produce scientifically. The domestic fish that we have, our various species that are in our waters, our freshwaters and saltwaters are still there. And they are fishing them. The domestic, the local fishermen are still catching those ones. So they are still in the market. Oh. But for commercial production, these are the only two species for now. And by the time those research, I think before the end of this year, we're going to have some added species from our local brand, which are very, very tasty and nutritious.
Well, they should be.
Yeah, but for the pelagic, there's nothing we can do about it. It's nature. We cannot grow in our water and in our climate. So those ones, you must resort to where it came from. That's their crude oil. They don't have it, we don't have it. It's what God gave to you, so we don't have that.
If you were to hazard a guess,
yes,
and based on how much is being done by your association and other associations in the fish industry, when do you think Nigeria can attain self-sufficiency in fish production?
Self-sufficiency in fish production will be almost impossible. God created the world for people to be dependent one on another. We can substantially reduce import and increase the because of this variety. Not everybody wants to eat catfish because it's not scaled fish, for religious reasons and health reasons and some other purposes. So people want the variety. You know, God is the master creator. He has crafted the thing and divided everything so that we can relate one with another as a global village. So you have it, but we must do that within the confines of the law. And that is what we are preaching. We must operate within the confines of the law.
Mr. Ogboru Turner, Esquire, Secretary of the Board of Trustees, Association of Indigenous Seafood Stakeholders of Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Business Morning returns in just a moment. Stay with us.